Hey Alison, it's Richard. So I'm going to attach this to the petitions. For what good it'll do, I don't know. But I really don't like what has been happening in a wider scope in the area, because we've got this strategic council and strategic planning that the council engages in, and it's got specialist teams and units. And from observations and from actually evaluating what's actually going on, the big picture, what the council do in the town centre when they put up the promotional material for the regeneration and everything like that, they're kind of using it and they are promoting it and encouraging it. And most of the time they cover the town in material before they've even decided whether things are actually getting the go-ahead or not. For example, like the health centre and the cultural quarter, things like that. I truly believe that if you could afford it, if anyone could afford it to get a proper lawyer, the law says that the council itself are not supposed to influence the electors. If you actually look truly at what they're doing and what's going on, over time, the council used to abide by these rules, and the law's still in place, but due to modernisation and fashion and trend, councils don't only maintain safety signs and other types of notices that are part of the normal structure and framework. They got into the trend of this whole promotional culture, you know, and they end up doing things with universities or with the bus company and with the football team. And I truly believe that it's got to a stage where they are influencing the electors. I mean, just look at George Galloway. The council went and took down a lot of his election material. He could have got in for Batley Spen. But yet what happened is Labour went and the Labour Party, you know, spent loads of money on Tracy Brabin after the government had created these new positions. Then Tracy Brabin's ended up getting the mayor position. She was almost guaranteed it with all the YouTube ads they used for her, and she'd been specially selected. That's all strategic. I don't think that this strategic element is anything to do with the local electors and what people are wanting and voting in areas. I think that it is these parties like Labour and Conservative who have got business partners and colleagues and friends, particularly deep in the Labour Party and Conservative, who have got financial rewards and assets in the contracting circles like Care and Balfour Beatty, who do the roads and places like that in councils. It's all Tory and Labour people in the Lords who have shares in and own those companies. And, you know, there's a lot of things happening that it actually ends up being, if you look at it properly, it's actually strategizing against what a lot of the local people want. And they do it in certain cunning and clever ways. They use lots of distractions, like they put roadworks or do something up the opposite side of the road to somewhere, so people are looking across at it the other side of the road, the other way, and then, you know, there are no notices at planning notices, or they do something to cause a distraction, like the mysterious circumstances around that little doctors in Dalton that's happened, and then when you check the records, there's strange things going on. That Al Jazeera investigation is an official, proper investigation. Well, my investigation is official and proper, but Al Jazeera are, in addition to that, they're a reputable media outlet. They've investigated the Labour Party and they found that there's been actual hacking, cheating, and obstructions being placed within Labour to make sure that certain people are raised up within Labour and other people are obstructed. And they've had, a lot of it's been done unlawfully. You know, that Al Jazeera investigation has got multiple videos of this Labour investigation. This is the same thing, you know, what's been happening since I've been doing my investigation. There are strange things happening, my computer and things like that. I've just had a lottery ticket appear that I never bought, and my ticket's a winner, and then the second ticket that's appeared on my account, I did not buy 2 tickets, and that's actually got 3 numbers as well. And it's not a duplicate ticket. They've both matched 3 numbers, but they're both different combinations of the numbers that were drawn. That's even harder to do. You know? It's like 130 odd to 1 on one ticket and 111 to 1 on the other. Things like that don't happen. And I remember not buying it. And then there's other weird stuff happening. Because of my campaign and investigation work I've done, they've just got a winner on the lottery while this is happening. That is a spitting image of the woman that used to be the secretary at work. And also, the name of it is Benson. Benson's is a prominent place that I didn't used to like going for work because they had people there who were idiots. I remember some of these idiots once when I went with one of the wagon drivers. They drove the fork truck blades through the side of the truck, and the guy who there was an idiot was called Steve Case. His name was Steve Case, you know. There were lots of strange things going on with the lottery. And as for the council, Al Jazeera have proved that there's been hacking and manipulations going on within the Labour Party. Now, the Labour Party are the party that is in control of KIRKLEES Council, right? Now, another example, and this is actually evidence, and even if it's too late to get it in as an objection against the planning, you can complain about the strategic planning department anytime you want to complain about them, any day of the week, any week of the year. You can put a complaint in officially to the council about the strategic planning department. Many people on the council, I think, are oblivious to what actually is going on. And Al Jazeera, they've raised official national points now in the main media that are indicating there is an insidious and very real force in effect within these political parties and that has infiltrated local councils. The changing of data, obstructing of messages and hacking. Now, all we need to do for evidence for this, to prove it, my current case is evidence that I've got with a complaint about that grate across the road. Because I complained in July. They sent the computer, the council says they sent someone to inspect it. I've got a reference number for it, which I've sent you in Messenger. It's one of those reference numbers. They said that on the computer that it was requested for service, but July, August, September, October, November, 4 months. They sent someone out very quickly, apparently, to look at it and to request service. It's all it is you pull out the grate and drop another one in. They're loose. It just needs a swap. It's actually the easiest job that you could possibly get on the council, short of sending people to empty the bins in the park. It's actually easier than it's a easier service job than entering the bins. Now, no one's been sent out, so there are only 2 possible reasons why it hasn't been changed since July. One is that the Highways Department just haven't gone and done it. And the other reason is that there's something happening strange on the computer system where it's either being obstructed from being flagged up or hindered. Now, why is it that at the exact time that I complain about that grate and then start complaining again and push it, then instead of actually changing the grate when I actually prompt them that they still haven't changed it, what they do is instead they go send someone to Pond Lane to drop the pavement. Just a week before the gas go and do the road. But there's nothing wrong with the pavement. The pavement was protecting the road. Why is it that they went and sent somebody out at the exact time when I started prompting them to do the road? Now, I did put a video on YouTube featuring the corner of that road for something else. Now, I know that something strange is going on and someone in the council or someone in the political parties is following and watching my videos in my campaign because I put a video about the bus station, about the tannoid system in the bus station, that I didn't like the tannoid system in the bus station. I thought that it spoke as if everyone was like a criminal and that we were all suspecting of being criminals all the time. I put a video about that, a parody, And then the next time I went to the bus station, and I didn't even send a complaint in. I didn't even write to the bus station or the council about that tannoid. I actually put it on my YouTube channel, the video, and then the next time I went to the bus station, it had been, there was a different girl on the tannoid saying, if you find anything in this bus station uncomfortable, please report it. So something happened because of something I'd done. Right? Now, this is what's happening in the area with other things. They seem to either do opposite to what you ask or something. It seems like that certain people in the council are doing things to annoy people, you know? Why hasn't that noisy grate been changed, you know? And then why do they go do something completely opposite to a place that I liked? No. Another thing is this. That house, the housing build that's behind us, right? Apparently, it started off a number of years ago with a woman who built some houses there. We don't know who suggested the idea to her or prompted her to do it, but someone did, right? And then there was the strange circumstances behind us when there was two beautiful bungalows with nice gardens. And then one of the lady's husbands died mysteriously, so she moved. And then that caused a chain reaction to get the other neighbour to sell up. But he didn't just sell, he ended up demolishing it and building houses, which is why we've got these massive, huge triple-storey houses now behind us with yuppies in. And they're all building fences on the road, totally changing the style of the road. Which is meant to be called Pond Lane, and it's meant to be a rural road. This, you know, with that build behind, there was no planning notices that anyone who was using Pond Lane could have seen to make proper objection. You know, I know one or two people did object, but I was going on that road regular to go to High Burton, and I never even saw any sign that there was going to be building on there, because anyone who wanted to, if a council wanted to use, it says in the rules that in some instances you need to use more than one sign. Well, surely it's an instance where you need to use more than one sign if it's a dead-end road and people aren't going up there to where the site is. Then surely, if there's no reason for anyone to go up there, because there's a farm up there, but they still might be objecting to traffic being brought into the area with a new build, then you put, this is an instance surely what would deem more signs required, because those instances exist. I mean, what other circumstances would require an extra sign? And no councillors at all helped or acted to do anything to stop that Pond Lane build. And then what happened is, right, and it wasn't even Bernard's area, it was his colleague Conservatives' area, right, which is for High Burton and Kirkburton, and we'll never see anything of them over here because we happen to be in the other ward, just out of the Lepton ward, but yet, you know, Richard Smith and the other councillors for High Burton are always potting around right over the other side. They don't really come to this area, you know, this part of their area often. When there was that issue right in the middle of Lepton Village, when they were trying to build some houses there, Bernard McGuinn was getting everyone together, and he got only 800 signatures. He only got 800 signatures, which is all it took to object to the planning, the one that was going to be towards the centre of Lepton. Yet he did no effort to object to the ones up here, but then Bernard gets labelled as being a hero because he rallied all the village to object with only 800 signatures. And now there's this other build happening down on Rowley Lane, which that one on Rowley Lane is going to be something that ends up attempting, this all to do with HS2 and Earl Dartmouth, that attempts to completely and totally take away the main part of the countryside, which are these beautiful views along that main road. It's almost as if they are using a strategy, because they're using the councillors they're removing notices so they quietly get houses built in one area, and then to make it look like they're actually doing something when they offer no help or assistance with those ones, right? They act even as if they're not even happening, quietly, behind the scenes. And then they cause all the attention and fuss with, like, the ones where Bernard's getting 800 signatures. And then, oh, yes, we're doing something about objecting to houses, right? And then suddenly you get this Earl Dartmouth popping up, with his HS2 bill, which is a really high-profile, prominent one, the one that they really actually do want to get. And then they make it look like, oh no, Bernard's been helping object to houses, right? But to be honest, that was a lot smaller and less significant plot. The one higher up in the village. Whereas this one that Earl Dartmouth got, this is the one that they really, really, I reckon, wanted to get through. It's almost like some sort of tag team that employs distractions and a sort of... it's almost like some sort of game or something, where, they put something somewhere and then do it in the hush-hush and don't say. And then, knowing very well, we don't really know until the last minute, what plans are going to happen until they pop up. But there's someone who is doing very, very long-term strategies, and they know very well we'll cause a load of fuss about this one, and then we'll quietly do that one and not put as much notices out, and then they won't notice that coming. And then to make it look like we're doing something against housing, we'll have Bernard pop up being the national hero with his 800 signatures, and then all the villagers are clapping for him. And then, it's kind of like some sort of game. And another really important point that I think's important is that we've got evidence that the government are giving out incorrect advice and incorrect information to local councils and councils, particularly about rights and rules and regulations for petitioning and things like that. The way that you interpret the planning rules and what you can object against and what constitutes a valid objection and the things that you can raise in objections or not is being very controlled, so that they're saying, they're telling you that this or that constitutes a valid objection and that doesn't constitute to it, when it's not necessarily the truth, because there are lots of things that should be and can amount to a valid objection. And in addition to that, simply the fact that if the local people don't like it and don't want it and don't want their area changed and don't want an increase in traffic, it actually... it's almost like these cycle lanes are an excuse, because you can use the excuse that there's going to be more traffic. So strategically, what do the council do to counter that? And then they go, oh, well, we'll try and do cycle lanes and make everyone use bikes, and then there won't be as much traffic. So that's therefore another strategic excuse to carry on building houses and not increase traffic, because they're going to put a cycle lane in. But then all the roads have to be changed for the cycle lane. It's almost like game after game after game after game. And then they're bringing in new ways to invalidate valid objections and kind of remove the validity of them almost, But other to that, if enough people just don't like it and don't want it, that is surely valid enough. I think it is, and I think a lot of other people think it is. I mean, I've got 3,000 signatures between those two petition links that I've put, and it is against houses being built in our local area. It is about HS2. I've included that in the petition briefing and updates. And in addition to objecting to those houses, it is protecting the wider area, the small lanes and villages in Armonbury, from being transformed into another busy chock-a-block nightmare that loses its character and charm and vintage traditional style. And the ancient site. You can have a petition that has a wider scope than just one housing build. It can be about objecting to a housing build and protecting that and the wider area. And 3,000 signatures is not something and nothing. It's a lot of signatures for a local cause and a local matter, particularly when Bernard only got 800 signatures. And when you submit a petition, it has to be presented. And the thing is, the main point of the complaint that I'm putting as a complaint to the council and to the strategic planning, not just in relation to this particular planning application, which I want it submitted as a complaint to KIRKLEES Council itself, is that I think there is some third party, and this is a really serious matter. I think that there's a third party who are intervening and infiltrating the council and the council computer system and the records, because it's happening with that complaint about the grate up the road, because I complained about it, but it hasn't been remedied. And the problem is that something strange is going on. It was reported in July, but yet it hasn't been attended. There's something on the computer system that is mysterious. There's something strange going on with the council computer system. And we know a lot of people don't always attend these meetings and strategies. We've also had a Green Party councillor, Andrew Cooper, has complained to the council. Andrew Cooper himself, who is a professional councillor himself, he's actually complained to the newspapers and to everyone else that he's witnessed these meetings, and he himself, in his professional opinion, believes that a lot of material gets either omitted, that the proceedings in the meetings are not proper and don't include everything they should, and that there are certain manipulations that happen when things are omitted and changed. Add that to this Al Jazeera investigation that accuses Labour with strong evidence of manipulating files and obstructing communications and changing things in order to get what it wants and for certain people to succeed, then it raises very serious alarm bells under the entire concept of strategic planning. Because if that is what Labour believes strategy is, and is employing that type of strategy within the party in Labour to stop people and things from being successful and aid and abet other things, not unlike, and another perfect example of how this plays out in real life is George Galloway. He goes out to try and get elected for Batley Spen, and he's hindered and obstructed. He goes and puts his material out, and some of it is taken down by the council unlawfully. And it's on the news. Yet, when it's Labour that want to get elected, every effort is made to make sure that YouTube is given maximum funding and capacity to show Tracy Brabin's adverts all over YouTube for 2 days solid before she's elected for West Yorkshire Mayor. And with the threat of these new minor parties rising up that may be able to get into local councils, having a new position created with a person who's from one party, for example, like Labour, being the mayor of the entire county, adds a new layer of protection for Labour in case people like George Galloway get in, or Lib Dems, or Lawrence Fox, or the Green Party. Even if they do get in many people in local councils, suddenly they've got Tracy Brabin and Labour making sure that he's in charge of the county. These are very serious accusations. They're extremely serious accusations. It's all evidence. It's hard, solid facts and evidence. Tracy Brabin and the George Galloway example. More hindering for one side while they help the other side, unlawfully. KIRKLEES Council Strategic Planning covering the town centre in media and promotion for all their regeneration plans and clauses, even though very large groups like Huddersfield then and now, with 18,000 people, strongly voice their opinions, generally in objection to it. Yet when it comes to deciding the matter, magically the computer says, oh, it's KIRKLEES Council think the people want it, when I don't think they do. Al Jazeera, people getting raised up within Labour. We've got evidence of obstructions within Labour and strange things happening to computers and things going missing or being changed. This is an official national investigation into Keir Starmer's Labour Party. But the problem is that the Conservatives and Labour now, they're saying that they are working together. That Labour and the Tories are working together in all these applications and planning and things like that. Still, primarily when many of the local people, just because they vote for a party, they can object and be opposed to individual items and individual applications, even though they voted for one party or the other. And in instances like this, many people are opposed. And it shouldn't actually take 3,000. We shouldn't even really need to go out and get 3,000 people. 3,000 people actually secures a meeting of its own over the matter. 3,000 is meant to secure a full council on a matter itself, let alone, it's just a meeting about the planning. I don't think it's not fair when Bernard is, pottering around with his 800 signatures, and easily getting opposing an application when we're getting, over 3 times that many signatures to not only protect against the houses being built and ruining the area, but on the wider countryside and including other objectives that are within that designated area, such as Armonbury Village and the school and Castle Hill and all the countryside that creates the setting that these places are in. And I think that there are very serious questions to be raised in the council on the computer system, because I know for a fact that the Camelot computer system has mysteriously been hacked, because I only bought one Thunderball ticket and it matched 3 numbers, yet why have 2 appeared and the second ticket also matches 3 numbers, which is not easy. It's 111 to 1 on one ticket and 134 to 1 on the other. You don't match 3 numbers twice on the same day. It's not. And I know that I only bought one, so where did it come from? And why have the lottery got a woman on there who is a spitting image of the Secretary at Work that we used to have, who actually lives in Flockton, which is that village where they objected against that bypass? They got 7 or 8,000 signatures. She's from that village it's not a coincidence that she's from that village that are trying to get a bypass, and the only reason they're having to petition for a bypass in Flockton, where nearly everyone in the village signed it, and then they continued to get more signatures, is because they couldn't object to the houses, or they failed in blocking those houses from being built. If those local people in Flockton, if the council would have upheld them objecting against those houses to have been built, then they wouldn't have needed to object against, they wouldn't have needed to petition to get a bypass. They've been forced to have to do that bypass because they got turned down against they weren't successfully upheld. They should have been successfully upheld. And again, it's another forced application, more strategy by the council, just blatantly ignoring locals. Locals didn't want it building. That should be enough. You can build houses in Northumbria. Now, if it's the government forcing it, we know we've had local councils down south in Essex and places like that, the councils have opposed against airports being expanded and built down south. And what did the government do? They threatened to take away the council's powers for even decision making. So even the council are facing threats from these malevolent forces that are in the government. And I think there's more deeper rooted things in operation than just the government threatening to take away the council's powers if the council rightly oppose or vote against it. And that is the fact that these strange things are happening on the computer systems. Now, I've also uploaded a video on my campaign page. I've just bought the new video studio. Well, it's the 2020 version. There's a 2022 version out now. And on the video studio, I don't know who. It's Coral who own it, who used to be ULead. And they've got a function in it that they've decided to name Boris. And what is this new function for? It's for creating titles. Now, what's the connection? What's the meaning? Is there another meaning that we could all easily recognise if you choose to name a new function on the video studio Boris, and the purpose of this function is to create titles? Because when Boris, all people who become Prime Minister are apparently always awarded with a title, which is a Knight of the Realm. So someone who supports Boris has quite clearly made that a point and actually embedded it into the video studio programme. And embedded it into the programme, calling something, naming it after Boris, and it's to do with getting titles. Now, what's happening in Labour Party is that there's a guy running it called Sir Keir Starmer who has a title. He was working in the Crown Prosecution Service. Now he's a Knight of the Realm, a champion of, the government and King Charles III. And he's been found by Al Jazeera, official media investigations at a professional level, to be manipulating computers and computer systems within the Labour Party to obstruct things and manipulate the outcome of things in Labour. Now, I don't want KIRKLEES Council to say, what has this got to do with a planning application in Fenny Bridge? It's got something to do with the planning application in Fenny Bridge when we're having mysterious things happen, like things happening to computer programs. And when I put a complaint into the council over 6 months ago about something on the system, but it hasn't been resolved. They haven't sent anyone to do it. There's something not happening in the council that should be. There's some sort of obstruction. But it's not like a mystery when no one knows about it, because I'm reporting it. Did anyone know about George Galloway? Someone had to send someone out, and an actual council member had to go physically out to take Galloway's election material down. It's not like they just vanished and no one knows where they went. The council removed them, right? And he was actually officially running for the Workers' Party. Now, why is it that the KIRKLEES Council seem to be able to get someone out to take down George Galloway's election material when he's running for council, but they can't send someone out to fix that noisy grate across the road that is distressing me? But they don't forget to send someone to put Tracy Brabin's YouTube adverts on when she's going to be elected for the mayor of West Yorkshire. Conveniently, the inspector doesn't conveniently deem that in the instance of Tinker Lane, when people likely aren't going to see the notices because nothing's on that road except the other build they just built a few years before, why is it? What other circumstance could you ever possibly need that would necessitate two notices other than the fact that the road's a dead end and people who it concerns, who are using the road that it's turning off, horse riding school, people who go for walks who don't want an increase in traffic, to who it may concern, Why didn't Kirklees Council Inspector deem that there should have been at least more than one notice and one on the corner of Tinker Lane with Pond Lane? He didn't. How convenient for council strategic planning. This is the mind of individuals working on the council. It's the mind of individual people employed by Kirklees Council who are either turning a blind eye or failing to identify when something should have been done according to the regulations, because that is the instance where it should be employed. There's something seriously wrong. And, you know, I've submitted these petitions in connection with this matter because it is within the area that I'm wanting to protect, and 3,000 signatures is not nothing. In fact, that Flockton Village petition, right, which has, it got 7,000 or 8,000 signatures, it's one of the highest ranking signature counts that is on the Kirklees records. I looked for petitions that had more signatures than 7,000 or 8,000, and the only ones that I found were the school meals petition, because that is something where you could get a lot of signatures because all the kids and parents are going to sign it and the school is allowed to promote it. So simply the teachers get everyone to sign it. So it's going to do well by merit of the situation and the uniqueness of the matter. And then the hospital one. And with the hospital petition, the newspaper assisted, and they didn't just assist in a flimsy, off-the-cuff way like Tony Earnshaw making some smarmy comment. They actively, for a extended period, pursued printed material, stickers for cars. They got people to put stickers in cars and put notices in shops to get signatures, to protect the hospital, to save it. Just by the way, save HRH like her royal. It also stands for Her Royal Highness, so it had a royal loyalty behind it as well, right? Notice that they put more material out, printed more material, and placed more material in vehicles on the display in shops, premises, and houses than what George Galloway did in his election time. Now, we didn't have Kirklees Council going round and taking down Save HRH and telling the Examiner that they're promoting it too much, because they seem to be aiding and abetting and affiliated with them. Again, council taking sides when it's not allowed to. It's not the council's business to intervene in an election or petitions. The person you submit the petition to is allowed to assist you, you know, but the council itself is not supposed to publish anything for or against. We've got serious problems, and the fact that this is Earl Dartmouth's land and he's a Tory, and, you know, he's even worse, and it's connected to this Earl HS2, and now they're putting money into changing the railway lines, even though we're in recession. There's serious issues. Now, it's not just me. Not only does George Galloway, the leader of the Workers' Party, and Neil Oliver and Chris Packham, who are well-known celebrities and broadcasters in the BBC, they have spoken out and voiced officially, broadcast, that they believe that there's some cheating going on and there's foul play going on within the Labour Party and the Conservative Party and in the local councils and government. And Al Jazeera have proved that. I've proved it with my investigation and evidence into illegal road signage, which I've proved, yet nothing's done about it. Now, we've got people in the council who really don't like it, certain people, because they are involved. And it could be these people who are refusing to go out and change the noisy grey opposite, which is distressing and upsetting us. It could be these people who are not putting notices out for planning applications when there should be more than one notice. They definitely are affiliated with certain sides, and this is affecting the decision-making process when they're going out and doing evaluations and writing reports. And it is also highly dubious. It's very, very concerning whom is on this strategic planning committee in the council, who's on the strategic planning committee in the council, and what their affiliations are. And even if it isn't them, is there some other third-party intervention which is using covert and strategic intervention to fail people's objections? For example, the exact same methods and procedures that's been employed by Labour and proved the intervention of messages internally, making messages disappear off systems, then reappear, so nothing actually gets done, or it doesn't get sent at the right time, or included, or read out. These are alarming and concerning accusations against the integrity of the council. A council that has already, as I mentioned before, been reported to government, central government, by Andrew Cooper and his colleague in the Green Party. They've reported the council for ill practice in meetings and decision-making processes over Castle Hill. We know that the planning inspectors and approval people, they mysteriously didn't pull the Tandies on that Castle Hill project that was built bigger than it was supposed to have been built. There are suspicious circumstances going on with that. How did it come about? Has there been a proper investigation about it? It's the same type of mystery events, but they're not a mystery. Someone has been influencing the applicant. Someone has been vetting and priming and grooming the applicant into doing it, while also the council processes and procedures there has been an intervention and an obstruction or blockage in procedures that should have kicked in and identified issues. So I am hereby reporting, and I am hereby complaining through the council complaints process, and you can submit a complaint via your councillor. And I know that we have a good councillor in our area, Alison Munro, and this is not a complaint against Alison Munro. This is a complaint against KIRKLEES Council and their strategies and strategic planning. It's actually a very serious accusation of extremely concerning conduct and behaviour from the council that has been pro-Labour and Tory, and it has been geared and shaped so that Labour and Tory's plans succeed. And that is what the strategic planning, if they've got control of the council, ultimately intend. They intend to win in whatever strategy they want to employ. Now, if this is at the cost of the local people, yet when the local people have a right and to defend their interests and protect their interests through legitimate means and methods, it's the council is cheating. And it's also cheating with the Huddersfield blueprint and the amount of material it puts all around the town centre, and the manner in which it's done. It's clearly influenced electors. They're creating alliances and then calling it an awesome team with Transdev. Transdev, the global, they're not even just an English Harrogate bus company. It's a global enterprise at a global investors level. These are the companies that BlackRock Vanguard investors are knocking around in, and Earl Dartmouth and his peerage are knocking around with. They invent, and this is very important when it comes to the KIRKLEES Council, and my immediate situation, why that noisy, harassing grate hasn't been changed. Even though, on the computer system it's recorded 6 months ago, but nothing's been done. BlackRock Vanguard are responsible for the Aladdin computer systems that the American government use, Not only just the American government that runs the Congress, the actual government. So when we've got the Labour Party that is experiencing and has been found to have serious critical computer problems within it, that question its very integrity and the way it's been run, we're finding this in KIRKLEES Council and with West Yorkshire Police. There are it's not only individuals working in these institutions, there are someone's assisting them and aiding and abetting on them to win, and they are accessing and intervening with computer systems remotely. And it is possible. Al Jazeera have proved that it exists in Labour. And this is a Labour council. Now, I've got evidence that suggests the computer systems are being intervened in my complaint about that noisy grate that's been put there on purpose, noisy, and is causing distress when I'm already under stress. The housing development behind, when I was going on that road all the time to get to Highburn, I saw no notice for that planning that notified me that it was time to object. None. The inspector didn't issue one, or was it the computer that didn't issue one? I think it's a bit of both. It's both the computer and the people. Some people in the council know there's something going on, but it's actually, because it's actually helping their side, it's helping their team, it's giving them an edge to win, they're not reporting it or complaining it. Yet Al Jazeera have investigated it and found that this is happening, right? Now, this build is not just any old housing build. It is a strategic point. It's close to our ancient site that has been under absolute threat from various building and planning applications that we've been vehemently fighting for our lives to defend, including, Andrew Cooper, and has been calling the council out left, right and centre for procedures. I've collected 3,000 signatures, and they also combine with other petitions, which can be included because I've written it cleverly to not only defend the houses and that land, but also a wider area of land. And I can continue to collect more signatures for that. But I've had other things to deal with. I'm being attacked by the council with the noisy grate. And then there were the plane path got moved over the top of us, which I've had to concentrate on that petition. And then I've had to do a petition for the stile in the woods that got knocked over. And then I'm having to protect other ancient sites that are under threat. I can't concentrate on this petition for the protection of the land and the houses all the time. I've only got a limited time to do it, yet it seems that Johnson Mowat and Earl Dartmouth and the strategic planning have got all the time in the world because they're being paid to go in to follow a strategic planning directive against the local people, trying to beat the local people, and they're being paid to do it. That's their job. They're being paid to try and beat us. And then they have the privilege of deciding whether our objection points that we raise are valid or not, or important enough. It seems like they have all the cards. It seems like they're not only the dealer of the cards, but they're playing the game, and they're the one who are dealing the cards, and they're dealing with a full deck. Yet we seem to have none. Yet we've got 3,000 signatures, which is not nothing. It's actually something. It's more than 800 signatures, which Bernard McGinn gathered, which is less than a third, well under a third. It's actually more, it's nearly 4 times as many signatures. So it's not a feeble objection. It's not a feeble point raised. And all the other matters that I've raised, many of these are factual. Now, the logic of the council is, well, we're only going to include it if it's relevant. Logic makes it relevant anyone can say whether it's relevant or not, whether they intellectually calculate its significance. If there's no significance calculated for it to concern it, but I am calculating. This is the point. To prove evidence of bias and intervention in planning matters at a local level, you have to provide evidence that there has been intervention and that it exists in other examples for there to be reasonable right to suggest that there may be intervention happening in this cause and in this application. So the evidence of George Galloway and Tracy Brabin, it is factual evidence against the council at a strategic, fundamental level that they actually take down material when they don't want somebody to win and beat them, and they assist and help people like Tracy Brabin when it suits them. And then the newspaper, and then they go and help them when it's the hospital. Yeah, they don't take down all the hospital material. And then in Murfield, another example, evidence to prove the council have been exercising bias and cheating. You need to be able to get evidence that it's been happening and other applications. And when you add it all up, there's something not right happening. Look at Murfield. More evidence. In Murfield, there is evidence of there's evidence of Cheryl Tyler opposing planning and building, and then the council give her a fancy award, make it look all hunky-dory. But yet she exhausts herself, and then she never wants to do any campaign work again after that. And then when Cheryl Tyler's exhausted herself, and when the people have been objecting successfully, continually against the Leeds Road development, industrial estate and houses, because Teal's Garage were collecting petition signatures and organising it. Teal's Garage give evidence, this is more evidence against KIRKLEES Council planning, that when they hold the meeting, they strategically choose a smaller room, so all the people, they know the amount of people who've ejected is in extremely large numbers. When they all turn up, they can't fit in the room. No one can hear what's being said, and no one can fit in the room or hardly get in there to speak. If this is what KIRKLEES Council deem as strategy, as strategic, it clearly is being employed to defeat and beat the public electors who the council are supposed to be electing and working for. And it seems to me that Her Majesty's government, or now His Majesty's government, King Charles, and Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, who have got control of the council, and the Tories, it seems to me that I don't think that they are concerned about the local people, no matter who wins the election. In particular matters, the locals, no matter what party they vote for, are objecting against these things. Yet, they still end up losing because they're being cheated. If KIRKLEES Council aren't taking down election notices, if they're not putting people in smaller rooms, if they're not ignoring evidence, I've put a complaint in. Can you imagine if that complaint I put about the Grey Inn, right, that hasn't actually been resolved yet, if that is this how they're treating these objections, and what if people are putting in objections against the Cultural Heart, objections against the new health centre, what happens to those objections and complaints? Could it be that what's happened to my complaint against the Great, right? Oh yeah, we did send someone out to inspect it and ask for service, but there is no service, nothing happened. Maybe that's what's happening to all the complaints that the Huddersfield Then and Now group are making to the council about protecting and preserving the area, when there are easily, visibly, hundreds of people on there and more who really don't like what's happening and voicing it. People are recording it now. Maybe it is that the council saying, oh yeah, we've had lots of... They're claiming that they're recording all the complaints. They're complaining that everyone's objection gets validated. They're saying that, but they're saying that they sent someone to fix this grate. They're saying that it was inspected. They're claiming service was requested, yet 6 months later, nothing is done. So how can we trust the council computer and staff to have a meeting about planning and anything legitimate happen to what anybody has written in and actually voiced if nothing gets acted on what has been submitted? There's some point within the council where there is a critical failure. There's a critical failure in that noisy grate being changed. Since July, it's now November. Now, we need to identify where the critical failure has occurred, because similar critical failures are happening in the planning and objection process. Yet, oh, here pops up Bernard with 800 signatures. Oh, success. But yet, when it's up here, no one pips a squeak. Oh, it doesn't sound like it. Yeah, I managed to speak to someone on the street, and oh yeah, they did actually end up finding out about it and then put an objection in, but it didn't amount to anything. I don't think that they didn't... Look, Boris and the Tories, they didn't want us really to be able to object. In fact, we know they attempted to take the right to object away. They didn't want it to exist. Now, what is what is that? What actually is that intent and action? It only exists. The principle of them trying to take it away is that they didn't want people to do it, and they were trying to stop people from doing it. Well, what's been happening? What has actually been happening prior to that? Well, we're claiming that they've been trying to stop people from objecting by cheating within the council, by not putting notices out, by making meeting rooms smaller so people can't get in, and by taking material and notices down. With all this evidence, yet still nothing's been done, and people don't want to we don't want to argue with the council. It makes us actually end up falling out with the council, and they end up being our opposition, and then you can't really do anything because you don't really want anything to do with them, because they actually end up just ruining everything. And then what happens is no one bothers contacting them, and then they just end up going and doing what they want, which is what they've been doing, and they like that because then people don't even try. And when you break people's will so they don't even try, then you've actually defeated them. Maybe that's part of the strategic planning, the strategy to defeat them. And that's what they've been doing with the advertisements and notices all around the town centre. KIRKLEES Council love using and know the value of promotional material and use it to the maximum capacity. Yet when it's George Galloway, they're taking it down and trying to stop him. But then when it's the hospital, then they're helping them with the newspaper and they're promoting it. But yet then when it's Flockton Village, then the council don't want to do it. And people fail to defend against building, and then they're forced to try and ask for a bypass. We're being whooped by cheats. We're actually being dominated by a deep-rooted and corrupt entity within this government, an insidiously corrupt regime, and it's headed by Sir Keir Starmer. And Boris Johnson has been proved to be a liar, the leader of the Tory party, or many Tories now are leaving the party. They're actually being reported now to be leaving the Tory party, and joining Nigel Farage with the Reform UK party because they don't like what's happening in the party. Now, if I submit this, you only get minutes. When you go to council meetings, they've got a timer. Yet this is critical evidence. More corruption. They're only giving time to speak. It's almost like with the petitions in the government. You're limited to how many characters you can type and how long the title can be in the words. Why? Because it'll take too long. But yet you can put a link to the evidence in there. They don't really want you to be able to write the full facts and evidence. When you restrict the evidence, you omit facts. Do the police omit evidence? When the police want to successfully convict someone, they try to include the more evidence, the better. The stronger evidence, the better. The judges don't say, well, you're limited to 500 characters or 3 words and you can only have one piece of evidence, because then the police wouldn't be able to prove the case. Yet, when we're going to councils to prove things, it's beyond the scope of this planning and application. It's beyond the scope of this. When it's not, because we're actually criticising the council itself being capable of making legitimate, honest actions and procedures. But we've got evidence now. Now, I'm not submitting this in regards to the application because the time's closed, but I can submit it as a complaint. The council is never closed to complaints. Will anyone listen to it? You know, that's the thing. Why make a complaint if no one is going to listen to it? Everyone on the council needs to hear this complaint. I can attach this statement. This is an additional piece of evidence. I've got 3,000 signatures, which amounts to a full council meeting for protecting the area that includes this development here that we're looking at, right? And all councillors should actually, everyone on the strategic planning, you shouldn't have to only present it in the meeting. They're supposed to revise the case. In court, you're supposed to revise the evidence and revise the facts in case. The meeting is only just for, to make it official and to actually summarise everything that's been submitted and make sure that everything gets mentioned, even if it has to be shortened and summarised, And as a complaint to the council, as part of this, it is critically and seriously important to report these things that are going on, because they are absolutely connected to the legitimacy and the integrity of the procedures which the council are using when they are pursuing these applications and coming out with conclusions and results. It's the actual process itself. And, there is evidence. You cannot have a councillor waltz up with 800 signatures and successfully defeat a planning application, and then when someone goes out and gets 4 times as many signatures, then even entertain the idea that they're not going to successfully also defeat the planning application, because it's discrimination against one planning versus another. And those people in Flockton, surely those people in Flockton must have, before they even got around to wanting to try and get a bypass, which I don't think is a good idea anyway, but those houses in Flockton shouldn't really have been put there. What was the petition that they had in the first place? Or weren't people really clued in on what was going on that? Was it another case like Murfield, where, they knocked it back so many times and then everyone had kind of not given up, but they'd lost their steam. Yet the council and the applicant are being paid for it, so they continue to press on. You shouldn't have to continually defend all the time, because people have a life to live. People have got lives to live and jobs to do, other jobs to do in their work time. You know, the law needs to be changed so people don't have to constantly and endlessly have to worry and stress over objections. It's very pro-business, and that's one thing that's terrible about these councils. What is the next item for business? What is the next item for business? What is the next item for business? It's meant to be politics and local area and the electorate. It's not a shop. The council are not a business. It shouldn't be business as usual. It's actually politics and voting. To start calling it a business is to almost say that the council is not politics and referendums and petitions anymore. It's just a company. It's just a corporate entity, when it's actually not. It's meant to be the local authority that is operating under the local democratic system. It's not meant to be a business. Yet we've got KIRKLEES, Balfour-Beatty, Ross, all these businesses with shareholders coming from Earl Dartmouth and his peerage who have bought out these companies, and they're getting applications passed and put through, not only by the local councillors who are their associates and colleagues, someone's employing third-party intervention through computer systems. The police should be involved with the Al Jazeera investigations. The police should be involved in investigating Sir Keir Starmer, but they won't for some reason. They won't investigate because it's their team. They're on their side. This is the same police force that send a team or a representative to liaise on with the council on numerous occasions. And it's these people who conjure up ideas for barriers being installed in the town centre and barriers being installed at ancient sites like Castle Hill. And the police turn up and have a representative at the meeting. How convenient. The same meetings that are being operated because of what's happening on these computer systems in Labour, in the Labour Party, in the Labour Council. So no wonder the police is not investigating, because they have liaison officers who are helping and working with these councils, namely the Labour councils. And then the police is working with the mayor, liaisoning with the new Labour mayor, Tracy Brabin, who had a position created and then now, after being assisted with additional promotional material to get elected through YouTube, now defeats the opponents, takes down anyone who votes or does something in opposition to these people, gets hindered and removed. Yet their own hospital campaign, because it promotes the Queen, Save Her Royal Highness Hospital, right? Then everyone is signing everything because the newspaper's promoting it. And then the next thing, if it's something they don't like, then they're saying what they're doing is illegal or wrong. Even George Galloway, when he's running for election, it's just rot. The whole thing is corrupt. The entire operation is corrupt. And this is why Extinction Rebellion are going out doing actions and protests, because they have said that they tried the legitimate means and processes. They tried petitioning councils and governments. They said it didn't work. There was something not working in it. So they've actually been forced to have to take further action because of obstructions that have been obstructing the legitimate way to do it, which is the same with George Galloway. Labour have serious critical defects, corruption, crime. We're not getting any action on this crime. And this crime is manifesting in these strategic planning committees, however it gets into them, whether it's computer systems that have been hacked and manipulated, which we know is happening, or whether it's the actual individuals themselves who are affiliated with a cause and they are refusing to do due process because of their political affiliations and alignment, right? And it's not only manifesting in these planning things, it's manifesting in all manner of council affairs, and it's manifesting in my complaint about the noisy grate. It's not being executed. It's not being resolved. 6 months. There is some entity in the council obstructing the resolution. And no one's taking it seriously or doing a real investigation. And it's likely that the forces controlling Labour, Keir Starmer, and his forces, deep state forces, have got the council procedures and rules set up and in place whereby it's either not within the policy to be able to adequately investigate and resolve it, like with the planning notices. There's no possible, the way that Katie Chu dealt with my complaint about planning notices not being up, no investigation was done, no checking. She only looked to see if a note was issued in the first place. They never looked to see if it's possible that it wasn't actually in place. And no one else can gather evidence until it's too late, because they didn't know there was supposed to be one there in place until it got announced that the time's elapsed. This is the problem. It's a cheating of the system. And the council, they've made the council. The council has been created on the 1st of April. Who's the fool? King Charles III and his colleagues and associates, the deep state people in government and in councils who make up the rules, they've made the rules so that it's not within the remit of the council or capabilities to actually investigate and resolve this crime. And because a third party's executing it outside of the constraints and capabilities of the council. This is the problem. Now, I've spoke to councillors before, and I've spoken to people who have got in complaints departments on KIRKLEES. They won't correlate with other departments. Why? We need to add the evidence up to show that strange things are happening or things are being done to certain people in multiple instances. He says it's not his job to speak to other departments and collate evidence. I says, well, let's speak to, Jackie, the chief executive of the council, right? Jackie, she, you email her, she won't speak to you. She says, we've got a complaints department, speak to them. Or we've got a, speak to your counsellor or speak to someone else. Jackie, she's meant to be responsible, the executive, for the entire council. Now, even when you message the main complaints department, who's guaranteed that it's going to be looked at properly if there is a third-party intervention in the computer system? And this is the problem. We've got computer programs with Boris's name popping up under the title creation, creating titles. That's significant because BlackRock, Vanguard, who own all these companies that are affiliated with the royals, they are making a computer system for governments. So they are the right people to speak to when there's strange things happening with computer systems in local councils. The police are selling surveillance equipment and computer surveillance for councils and governments to foreign countries and military, people who were in the police, and they're friends with current serving police chief officers. Now, when the police have got liaison officers who are liaisoning with the council and wanting to fit barriers and more security everywhere, they're not flagging up and calling out when people are accusing the council computer system of being hacked and corrupted. Who has the expertise in surveillance on the council? these police. There's things appearing in the town centre that weren't there before, but yet they're made to look as if they've been there a long time. New Islands. And then the strange doctors at Dalton got changed. We're being played and we're being cheated by a team that is acting outside the conventional box, and people don't like to question it and claim that it exists and is happening. Yet Al Jazeera found that it's happening. Neil Oliver and Chris Packham are calling it out. Lawrence Fox, George Galloway. We've got serious, insidious corruption, and it's all about money and building and getting things built, getting permission for things or cheating it if they can, and there is a team behind it. And the manifestation of that team in the council, however they exert their influence on their team, is that the team is the Strategic Planning Committee. Now, whether it's the individuals who are affiliated with and wink, wink at their team, however they get communicated with from their team, or if the team simply makes the appropriate changes to the system to ensure that the right things get said and the things they don't want to get said don't get said and heard. We've got issues, and it involves the Earl Dartmouth and his friends and colleagues, and the evidence on my petition against the applicant of this planning is called William Legg, Earl Dartmouth. Dalton and Waterloo, it was called Legg on old maps, Legg. So he has a stake in the name on that place that he likes. His peers have built a street on there in 1954 under Labour when the council got control from the Liberals, and they spoiled an ancient site. And when those ancient sites prior to that were being investigated by archaeologists, they interrupted it with World War II broke out, and everyone was called off. In a similar way now to when COVID was called out and everyone was locked down. Now, it's not a figment. It got called Waterloo when they built this train tram station, which was the Sam Copley, a barber, went to Australia, came back with money, millions, bought all of Huddersfield, and he claimed he was giving it to the people. But he didn't give it to the people. King George enacted the Corporation Act, which actually gave it to KIRKLEES Council, not the people, which is His Majesty's government. So they ended up giving it to the king. And then this is how his family and peerage have ended up with certain lands like William Legg. And they are manipulating and influencing the council. They even make the council be enacted on the 1st of April, which is associated with a fool. And it is these foolish people working in the council staff that do not realise that their computers are being infiltrated and manipulated, like Al Jazeera have proved in a national investigation into Labour. Right? Now, we need police criminal investigations. But John Robbins, he will not do it, because the Mayor of West Yorkshire now, his friend is Tracy Brabin, who is his colleague. So, and he liaises with the council and they help each other to get barriers put on as ancient sites and other matters done. This is their strategic planning. Now, they are beating us and they're actually whooping us and cheating us. And they've done it to George Galloway. They not only take his lecture material down, they turn the electricity off on his building. Now, where is Rishi Sunak with criminal action. Rishi Sunak has told the police that they have now to investigate the internal corruption of the force. And part of that is with liaison officers who are sent out as emissaries to local councils to help get things that the police want to do, in order to maintain Sir Keir Starmer's Labour position over particularly this county. Even if the Greens manage to get in, or Lib Dems manage to get into the council, it's now safe that even if the council went under the Greens and even the Greens got into the council, then they've still got Tracy in place, Why are they creating these new positions when Extinction Rebellion are wanting to get a citizens' assembly and, not really have ministers anymore? Because the people should vote, yet they seem to be creating more and more positions. The strategic planning, the entire enterprise is colluding and affiliated with corporate power and connections within political parties. And that is why many of these villagers have tried to oppose and block this and been unsuccessful. And Nick Clegg is not helping the matter, because Nick Clegg and Mark Zuckerberg, who are pro-corporate and pro-finance, they don't want to open up Messenger so we can utilise it to collect very, very strong numbers of signatures a lot easier, like, 10, 20,000. You could easily get 10, 20,000 on many local causes if Messenger wasn't capped, because you could just go through a group that had 20,000 people and ask every single person. And then you would not just have the 800 signatures of Bernard McGuinn, you could possibly get 20,000 signatures against the planning objection. But 3,000 signatures is more than enough to stop this planning. So this is a complaint to the council. I'm going to submit it to Alison Monroe. I don't know if she'll even bother to listen to the whole complaint. It's not about her. I don't know whether any other councillors will hear it, or people in the counselling complaints, or executives of the council. It's also a complaint against the executives in the council. We've got issues, and they're not figments anymore. We've got real, serious people who have started to look into this. Al Jazeera media investigations. We've got real celebrities who are openly discussing it now. And it's a very serious matter.